Disco ut serviem, I learn that I may serve. Berilmu, beramal. Maxwell School was established in 1917 in what was then Maxwell Road, named after Sir William Edward Maxwell. The only schools that were around at that time were in the centre of Kuala Lumpur, a distance to anyone that wanted to attend school. Thus, a vacant land was designated for a school, with the plans only being drawn up in 1919. Built at a cost of $210,000, the school finally opened as a primary school on the 1st of June 1922 to 110 pupils, with Montague B. Brockwell as headmaster. The school originally consisted of two blocks, the present-day main block and the gymnasium block. The design and features of the block is typical of the colonial-era structures, bearing some similarities with the Malayan railway station and Sultan Abdul Samad building, both with Moorish designs. The school functioned as a feeder school and, together with Batu Road and Pasar Road schools, provided students to the Victoria Institution. During the period between 1922 and 1929, a scout movement and a prefects system was set up in the school. The scouts, under headmaster Mr. C. Beamish, began to hold an annual competition between Selangor School's scouts in 1928, named the Beamish Cup. This competition continued well into the 1930s. However, things took a turn for the worst as the Great Depression caused the school to cease functioning as a government school, the only one in the country to do so back then, and was led to be run as a private school under the headmastership of Mr. R. Thambi Pillai, a renowned educationist then. Then the war came. Allegedly, the Japanese made full use of the empty school building by making it the dreaded Kampetai camp. After the war, the school housed students of the Victoria Institution as their school was being used by the British military administration. Just a day after being installed Governor of the Malayan Union, Sir Edward Gent paid a visit to the school, making him one of the highest-ranked British official to visit the school. The Victorians returned home in September 1946, and in the same year, the newly formed Technical College occupied the defunct school buildings until they got a building of their own. It was only in September 1953 that the Maxwell School was reopened as a secondary school under aid from the Colombo Plan. The duty of reorganizing and reopening the school was left to a New Zealander by the name of William C. Clean, who, in his short tenure as headmaster, had carefully and systematically laid plans for Maxwell School to be run as a modern secondary school, Malaya's first. The modern secondary education at Maxwell took after the elements of the New Zealand Technical High School, the New Zealand Intermediate School, and an English modern secondary school. This system was the first in Malaya, where students were given a breakaway from the traditional academic form of education. The students were taught based on their personal capacity and inclinations, a milestone in the history of education in Malaya. Subjects such as metalwork, woodwork, and art were taught. Clearly, the government felt that in the aftermath of the war, Malaya needed citizens that could rebuild the country, quite literally. Thus, Maxwell School was given the honor to be the first school in the nation to do so, a fact acknowledged by the then Raja Muda of Selangor, Tunku Abdul Aziz Shah. From one New Zealander to another, Mr. Donald Priestley soon took over and began many of the long-lasting traditions of the school. It was under his tenure that the prefect system was revived, initiated the sports day, speech day, library and the librarians system, the school crest and song, as well as many sports houses and sports teams. The school enjoyed much success under the modern secondary education system that the High Commissioner of Malaya himself, Sir Donald McGillivray, paid a visit to the school. Mr. Priestley retired in 1956, making Mr. Paul Chung the headmaster. It was under Mr. Paul Chung that one of the most significant events in the school's history occurred, the formal naming of the school for the Maxwell family. On the 29th of May 1957, the Maxwell portraits of Sir Peter Benson, Sir William Edward and Sir William George were unveiled in the school hall. A letter from Sir George Maxwell was read out, in which he thanked the school, the high compliment paid to the Maxwell family, and wished for the continued success of so splendid an institution. Thus, the historical unbreakable bond between the school and the Maxwell family was established. In 1968, Mr. P. Nadaraja was installed as headmaster. During his 11 years in charge, the school grew from mediocre academic results and reasonable sports performances to one of the powerhouses in sports and reached high improvements in academic results annually. It was another historic moment in 1979 when the school began its first intake of female students for the Form 6 classes. The school had also expanded to where the present Putra bus station is. However, in 1982, the City Municipal Council took over possession of most of the school land for development. The school field and some blocks had been developed to what is now the Putra World Trade Center, PWTC, and the Hantian Bus Putra. Maxwell School is one of the very few schools in the nation that has not shifted and has remained in the original site from the very beginning. While the modern-day Ministry of Education has added rectangular-shaped blocks to the school, the distinctive H-shaped of the main block is still one of the more interesting features of Kuala Lumpur. Once a Maxwellian, forever a Maxwellian.